Welcome back to 31 Days to Wellbeing, where this month we have been investigating nutrition, specifically blue zone diets eaten by centenarians or people who live to over 100 around the world. In this is the second instalment. So if you missed Michael Turnbull covering off Icaria in Greece last week, please check that out. So in that, he sort of provides the full overview of the concepts of the blue zone. Links in all the usual places. But today, I am going to be covering off Sardinian blue zone nutrition. So Sardinia is, I think, the second biggest island off the mainland Italy, and I'll pause for a moment for you to sort of imagine the riches that I would have had at my disposal for this month. So when we think of Italy, we think of those beauties like your pizzas, your pastas, your gelato, your cured meats. And I would say it's not quite like that. So my friends in Sardinia live a very clean lifestyle. So it's full of those clean whole foods, focused mostly on seasonal vegetables, whole wheat carbohydrates like your breads and your pastas. And then, similar to other blue zones, we have a very small quantity of meat and of fish. And then you've got good healthy fats like your olive oils and your grains and your pulses and your legumes and that sort of thing. But I'll go into the breakdown a bit more as we keep on talking. So as a sort of percentage breakdown, basically exactly 50% comes from your grains. So you've got your whole grains, so your whole wheat pastas, your oats, your barley, your durum wheat, and then stuff like polenta. So that forms the centre of pretty much every single meal. Then your meat and your fish, like I mentioned earlier, is only sort of consumed as like a celebration or as something to have on Sunday. So it's only sort of 4 or 5% of the time that you're going to be having your meat and fish as the centrepiece of the meal, that is. Other points you are going to be able to flavour your dish with meat or fish. So for example, I don't know, I've snuck a little sardine in there and pancetta it and finds its way into my minestrone and stuff like that. Adding those umami flavours when I really needed them. Then you've got your blue zone classics. So we've seen this and you'll hear about this in the full episode when we go through at the end of the month. Is your beans and your legumes. So for me this month, I've had the chickpeas, the borlotti bean, the cannellini, and I've actually yet to find it, which is bad because it's one of my sister's favourites, but the fava bean is also a common one. And these find their way into many meals in small quantities. So these will make up sort of 4 or 5% of the overall diet. So we know 50% comes from those whole grains. So then the next big hitter is your dairy. So that's predominantly from goat and sheep's milk. I've been having stuff from cow's milk as well because it's easier to source, but pecorino and ricotta have been in my diet daily. So ricotta and honey has been within my breakfast, and then pecorino has basically gone all over everything that I'm having for lunch and dinner. So they make up a quarter of that overall pot. Then, like with most islands, and particularly with the blue zone islands, seasonal vegetables are the last sort of large part of this nutritional base. So that's around 12 to 15%. So for me, and we'll go into this in more detail, but I've been having those root vegetables really as the season is upon us. Then you've got your high quality fat sources. So as expected, extra virgin olive oils going in basically every meal, and your nuts and your seeds. So almonds have been a fan favourite for me, but then walnuts, pistachios, and they're also sort of my main source of snacks throughout this month, which has been fun. And then finally, there's sort of very little to no added sugar overall, so it's very low quantity. I think it's under 2 or 3%. So my main sort of sweet thing has been honey. So I have honey sort of with most breakfasts when I'm having a snack, if that's just ricotta and honey, stuff like that. And that can be used to sweeten your tea as well. That's sort of the main basis. And then there are lots of other comparisons with that blue zone lifestyle that the Sardinians show. So beyond the nutritional side as well as within the nutrition. So lots of time spent on your feet, kind of working with your hands, seasonal foods, like I mentioned, the island aspects. So tradition and heritage win over sort of westernization and commercialization, I should say, because the traditional way to raise livestock, to grow food, to cook it, to be all together, that still remains. And then finally, what's been a really wonderful aspect of the experience for me, and this won't come to a surprise to my friends and family, is that there's a big sort of social connection aspect, particularly among those Sardinian men who live to over 100, who will be having one or two sort of moderate glasses of red wine every evening, where they would go out, be on the street, laugh at each other, make jokes, laugh at themselves, and just, not take anything too seriously, really. And they would do that on the daily. So I have been, where possible, indulging in that as well. Unfortunately, I didn't get hold of any of the Cononau wine, so that's famous for its like artery scrubbing flavonoids, I think the word is. So instead, I've just been having high quality red Italian wine. But that pretty much rounds it up for my quick overview of the Sardinian Blue Zone diet. Do check out the first episode on Icaria if you've not heard that yet. And then coming up next is Michael Tarpey going through Okinawa in Japan. So thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye now.